Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy. When last we left the Peripheral on Amazon, I was pleasantly surprised after having suffered through Amazon's Rings of Power. And while I can't say this is a hit just yet, it was a good watch. If you missed the last video or are not caught up through episode 2 yet, go watch those and then come back and finish this video, because this is a spoiler review. And it will be a less fervently enthusiastic one this time, because episode 2 ran into some problems. We left Flynn, Burton, and Burton's service buddies realizing they're about to be under attack. I don't know how vets in other countries are, but this is a bad idea in the US, and it is an even worse idea in Appalachia. Folks up there are already strapped, but you send them off to kill people with fully automatic weapons, and they won't be satisfied with the semi-automatic civilian models when they get home. And I doubt 9 years in the future will be any different. And in this show, it isn't. Needless to say, Burton and his buddies have party favors of their own, and the mercs the people in the future send wind up running into a buzzsaw. Burton and his buddies think they got them all, but Drone Guy does a head count on the video and realizes they are too short. Unfortunately, those two happen to be the heavy machine gun crew the mercs brought along, and our hillbillies wind up pinned down. Burton is thinking about trying something dumbly heroic when Connor shows up and saves the day. This whole sequence was well done and leagues beyond the crap fight scenes we got in Rings of Power. Then we cut to the future where we get a hint that there was some kind of near cataclysm in Earth's future, sometime between our two timelines. It comes in the form of a vague conversation between Alita and the man who started this whole show off, Wilf Netherton. You know, park bench guy. Anyway, they have a discussion about whether Alita is happy or not, and that she might be if she accepts an offer Wilf has. He wakes up to a call from his boss, a guy named Lev Zuboff, who tells him that the hit in the past failed, but that they need to get Flynn back in the sim. Lev's people have built a new avatar for Flynn, and he needs to get her back on board so they can explain why they need her. And it is in this sequence that we find out that Wilf is a fixer. Lev hangs up, and he is sitting in his office with Cho Chang from Harry Potter. She's called Ash in this show, and her Scottish accent is so thick I had to turn on the subtitles to understand some key dialogue between her and Lev. J.J. Field is very good as Lev, but I'm not sold on Ash, and I don't think it's just the accent. There's something annoying about her that I can't put a finger on. Since I was neutral on her as Cho Chang, and that is the only thing I've ever seen her in, it can't be a holdover for something else she was in. I don't know, maybe it will come to me with more scenes from her, but I couldn't figure it out this episode. Flynn gets back in the sim because she and her family desperately need intel on what the hell they got themselves into. She finds herself in a different avatar, one that looks like her. Wilf tells her it is called a Peripheral, an android body built to be controlled by the kind of rig they sent her brother. He tells her that she is now in the future and that something called quantum tunneling allows those in the future to contact those in a past stub, a timeline that winds up breaking away from that future timeline once contacted from those in the future. Wilf offers her a very tempting carrot to get her to help him and Lev find Alita, a cure for her mother. She says she will think about it. They apparently need Alita because she works at something called the Research Institute, and she gives them a way to contact the past via her job there. Without her, they will lose their access to Flynn's timeline. The deputy friend of Flynn's, who was in about a minute of the first episode, is driving along a dirt road when he sees a cup of coffee floating. Apparently, one of the dead dumbass mercs left it on the roof of their invisible car before heading off into the ambush. Deputy Dumbass feels around and discovers the car, then realizes that the owners must be up to no good. He begins to track said owners towards Burton and Flynn's house. When Flynn gets out of the sim, she heads to town to pick up the carrot. a prescription that can cure the brain tumor her mother has. The tumor their mother did not tell them about. When she gets home, she talks to her mother, and her mother admits that the doctors gave her about 6 weeks or less to live. Flynn gives the medicine to Mom and goes to talk to Burton. She arrives just in time to see Deputy Dumbass walk off. When Burton is told the truth about the sim and their mother, he's not happy about any of it. He gets pissed to learn that Flynn already gave their mother the medicine. She also tells him that in order to help them fight off future hits, they are sending money and will try to warn them in time should they hear about other attempts. Later, when Flynn, Burton, and one of the vets who is also their cousin are in the local bar, the cousin wins the lottery for the exact amount they were told Wilf and Company would send in a manner that would not screw with Burton's disability payments. $250,000. While their cousin is in the bathroom, Burton tries to get Flynn to see that her empathy is going to be a liability in the mess they are in, when she suggests including Connor in their group. She points out that her empathy is probably what saved them, and that with Burton's approach, he would have never known if it is an asset or not because he does not allow for it. After she leaves, he curses himself and goes to visit Connor, only to find him passed out with a gun within reach. He quietly lets himself in after knocking, empties the gun, and puts it back, then wakes him. Connor immediately grabs the gun and dry fires without even looking to see who it is. They sit down and discuss the VA and their post-military issues, and the firefight, how much each of them felt more alive during it, and dead once more when the adrenaline wore off. Burton offers a place in the encampment that they are making to defend against the coming storm from the future, but tells Connor he has to be sober to take the offer. Connor passes out, and Burton leaves him a note to remind him when he wakes up. Then we learn that Corbel Pickett is a VR perv. He's hooked into a Havana nightclub sim when he is approached by the thug that killed Burton's avatar in the future. He offers Pickett $10 million to kill Burton and Flynn, but Pickett thinks it's some kind of government trap and leaves the sim. As he's getting ready for bed later, $2.5 million appears in his account, as promised in the sim by said thug. Flynn finally gets curious about the Colombian company that sent Burton the sim rig, Milagros Cold Iron, and Googles them. She finds out that they don't exist. Later, as she is sleeping, she's awakened by a noise from downstairs. She alerts Burton, and when she gets to the kitchen, it is their mother getting a midnight snack. Mom thought it was a dream because she could see, which is how they end the episode. While I was pretty pleased with the first episode, this one was less enthralling. Some of it was less captivating characters. Among those, I've already named Ash, but I would put Deputy Dumbass, whose name I forget because he is less than memorable, and surprisingly, Corbel Pickett. In the first episode, Pickett was coldly and menacingly commanding in the one scene he was in. This episode, they either overused him or he wasn't as good as I thought. In the bar scene where Burton, Flynn, and their cousin were drinking and talking, he was there, but less scene-stealing and more lurking cartoonishly in the background and not doing much. In the later scenes, he was borderline idiotic, and I'm not expecting him to get better if the show goes where I think it will. Along with some of the characters being a problem, this episode suffered from some of the same problems Rings of Power did, in that its pacing was dragging. The first episode was also a little dragging, but I chalked that up to having to introduce two different worlds at the same time. This episode, it was more obvious. Aside from the firefight at the beginning, which was over in about 5 minutes, as firefights outside of war zones are wont to do, there was little to this snooze fest of an episode. I am really hoping episode 3 picks up, or this will wind up being a very disappointing show going forward. I think that will wrap it up for this video. I'll have episode 3 of the Peripheral tomorrow. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below to help out with the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you in the next video. Tschüss.